Okay, in this section, we're going to continue covering movement, and we're going to start discussing move and fire or fire and move. They're relatively interchangeable. There are a few restrictions when it comes to move and fire, that certain units can't do it. If they have a movement factor of 1, they're not eligible. Or if it's units that are in a transport that are unloading, they're not eligible for move and fire as well. And also mortars are not capable of this. Now, the short version is a unit that wants to take and perform a move and fire action is going to round down its movement factor by half, rounding down, and then perform either move and fire or fire and move. Looking at the example that I've got laid out here of this Tiger, it wants to fire down onto these SU-152s, but it has some blocking terrain in between it. So it wants to move so it has an open line of sight. You can see its movement factor is a 3. So if we cut that in half, that's 1.5. We round that down, that gives it 1 movement point. So that's 1 movement point, not 1 hex that it can take and move. So it could move down to this hex, but it could not move up into this hex, since the wood hex requires 2 movement points for a heavy, hard target. Do keep in mind that you have to complete your move and fire or fire and move all in the same activation during the same impulse. You can't break it up and try to op fire or something like that at a later impulse. Now again, looking at our example of the Tiger, it is eligible to be op fired against when performing its move and fire. So let's say it does decide to take and move and fire. So it moves down 1 hex, expending 1 movement point. It can be op fired against by the SU-152 against the Tiger. And that attack will be resolved first prior to the Tiger actually performing the fire part of its move and fire. Let's say that the SU-152 actually disrupts the Tiger. At that point, the Tiger's impulse would be over. It would no longer complete any further moves or fire that it was going to do for the rest of that impulse. And of course, you would mark the SU-152 as ops complete. So let's say that instead the Tiger wasn't disrupted and it actually did move down, the SU-52 fired, but it missed. The Tiger would complete its attack at that point, but there would be some modifiers. It would remove 1 from its firepower, so 1 less dice to be rolled, and it would add 1 to the to hit number for its attack. And this is going to apply for AP and HE attacks. So let's say it's making its attack against the SU-152, so it's going to use its AP stats. Instead of a range of 7, 3 dice with a hit number of 4, it's going to have a range of 7, rolling only 2 dice, and instead now looking for a 5 to conduct its attack. You would conduct your attack as normal, and once complete, you would take and mark the unit as ops complete. You can do move and fire with a stack of units, so if there were 2 Tigers stacked in this hex, they could both move down and they would conduct their attacks separately and so on, just as normal.